The pulsating bass thumped through the upscale club, reverberating in sync with the collective heartbeat of the New Year's Eve revelers. Neon lights danced across the polished floors, casting an otherworldly glow on the well-dressed crowd. As the clock ticked down to midnight, the air buzzed with anticipation, and the scent of expensive cologne and champagne lingered. In the midst of the glittering chaos, I found myself wrapped up in the festivities, surrounded by laughter and clinking glasses. The music surged, and the DJ seamlessly transitioned into a remix of an old favorite, setting the stage for the countdown. I scanned the room, catching glimpses of sequin dresses and tailored suits, each person a beacon of excitement in the dimly lit space. As the seconds dwindled, I locked eyes with a stranger across the crowded dance floor. There was something magnetic about their gaze, and without exchanging a single word, we both recognized the unspoken pact that New Year's Eve holds. The final countdown began, and the energy in the room heightened. 10, 9, 8. The stranger and I closed the distance between us, the anticipation reaching a fever pitch. 3, 2, 1. The room erupted in cheers as the clock struck midnight, and in that fleeting moment our lips met in a celebratory kiss. It was a whirlwind of passion, fueled by the electric atmosphere around us. The stranger's lips were warm and unfamiliar, a brief connection in the sea of revelry. However, as the celebratory cheers echoed, the stranger clung to the moment, misinterpreting the spontaneity of our kiss. The lingering embrace turned uncomfortable, and I gently pulled away, hoping to dissolve into the crowd and savor the anonymity of the night. But the stranger had other plans. I weaved through the jubilant crowd, the thumping music drowning out any attempt at conversation. Glancing over my shoulder, I noticed the persistent stranger trailing behind, their eyes fixated on me. Panic began to bubble within me as I made my way toward the exit, the bass line vibrating through my chest. Stepping out into the cool night air, I found solace in the quietude of the alley adjacent to the club. The dimly lit street was a stark contrast to the neon-lit chaos inside. I fumbled for my car keys, the urgency to escape mounting with each passing second. Just as I reached my car, a hand grabbed my shoulder, sending a shiver down my spine. I turned to find the persistent stranger, their eyes now clouded with a misplaced intensity. In the stark streetlight, I could see the desperation etched on their face. My attempts at diplomacy fell on deaf ears as they leaned in for another kiss, their grip tightening. Panic turned to fear, and I reached for the only defense I had, the small can of mace on my keychain. In one swift motion, I sprayed a burst of the stinging liquid, creating a barrier between us. The stranger recoiled, clutching their face in pain. Seizing the opportunity, I fumbled with my car keys and quickly slipped into the safety of my vehicle. As I sped away from the club, the adrenaline coursed through my veins, the music and laughter of the party fading into the distance. The night that began with the promise of celebration had taken an unexpected turn, leaving me with a lingering unease. The encounter served as a stark reminder that even in the midst of revelry, boundaries can be blurred, and the line between joy and discomfort can be razor thin. In the rearview mirror, the neon lights of the club gradually disappeared, replaced by the quiet darkness of the empty streets. The taste of mace lingered in the air, a bitter reminder of a New Year's Eve that veered dangerously close to a nightmare. The countdown echoed through the crowded apartment, the pulsating bass of the music creating a rhythm that matched the pounding in my chest. It was New Year's Eve, and my small apartment had transformed into a lively hub of laughter, clinking glasses, and the occasional enthusiastic cheers. The air was thick with anticipation as we all eagerly awaited the arrival of a brand new year. As the seconds dwindled down, I surveyed the room, taking in the sea of familiar faces and the eclectic mix of decorations that adorned the walls. The shimmering lights strung across the ceiling cast a warm glow over the revelers, creating an atmosphere of celebration and camaraderie. Midnight struck and the room erupted in cheers and embraces. The first moments of the new year were a blur of joy and excitement. Amidst the chaos, I made my way to the makeshift punch station, a large bowl filled with a vibrant concoction that promised a sweet kick to the festivities. I poured myself a glass, the crimson liquid fizzing as it settled. The room seemed to vibrate with energy, and the anticipation for the year ahead was palpable. I raised my glass for a toast, the clinking sounds blending with the distant echoes of fireworks outside. As the clock struck 12, the revelry reached its peak. That's when things started to take a bizarre turn. I noticed a man standing near the punch bowl, his eyes wide and vacant. He wore a disheveled suit as if he had stumbled into the party by accident. I hadn't seen him before, and the unsettling aura around him immediately caught my attention. He stared at the punch bowl, a sinister smile stretching across his face. I watched in slow motion as he reached into his pocket, producing a small vial that glinted in the dim light. Without hesitation, he emptied its contents into the punch, a malicious glint in his eyes. My heart raced as I realized what had just transpired. Someone had spiked the punch, and the unsuspecting partygoers continued to revel in blissful ignorance. The man melted into the crowd, disappearing as quickly as he had arrived. A knot formed in my stomach as I debated whether to warn the others. But curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself drawn to the ominous concoction. I sipped the tainted punch, the sweetness masking the underlying bitterness. It wasn't long before the room started to warp and twist. The once familiar faces became distorted, and the vibrant colors of the decorations turned muted and surreal. A sense of unease settled over me, and I observed as others succumbed to the effects of the spiked punch. A woman began laughing hysterically, her eyes wild with madness. A group of friends erupted into a heated argument, their voices escalating into shouts and shoves. The chaos intensified as someone, fueled by the altered state of mind, decided it was a brilliant idea to set off a firecracker inside the apartment. The sharp explosion cut through the clamor, sending the crowd into a panicked frenzy. I stumbled through the mayhem, desperately trying to make sense of the madness. The atmosphere had shifted from celebration to pandemonium, and the apartment felt like a pressure cooker about to explode. Amidst the disarray, I spotted the man who had spiked the punch. He reveled in the chaos, his sinister grin widening as he observed the consequences of his malevolent act. Anger surged within me, but before I could confront him, a wave of dizziness washed over me. The next few moments blurred into a surreal nightmare. I witnessed acts of senseless vandalism, theft, and violence. The once festive atmosphere had devolved into a scene of utter anarchy. It wasn't long before the police arrived, responding to the cacophony that had spilled into the streets. The chaotic party had drawn the attention of law enforcement, and they stormed into the apartment, armed and ready to restore order. The man who had spiked the punch was now a frenzied force, resisting arrest with an unnatural strength. It took several officers to subdue him, their struggle a chaotic dance amidst the wreckage of what was supposed to be a joyous celebration. As the adrenaline-fueled nightmare came to an end, I stood amidst the ruins of my apartment, the weight of the night settling upon me. The once vibrant space now bore the scars of the chaos that had unfolded within its walls. The aftermath of that fateful New Year's Eve lingered in my memory, a haunting reminder that even in the midst of celebration, darkness could find its way in. The echoes of the spiked punch and the ensuing madness served as a chilling tale of how quickly the thin veneer of normalcy could unravel, leaving behind a trail of destruction in its wake. The pulsating bass reverberated through the rusty walls of the abandoned warehouse as soon as we stepped inside. Dim, flickering lights barely illuminated the vast space, revealing a chaotic mix of discarded crates and forgotten machinery. The air hung heavy with anticipation as the distant laughter of unseen revelers echoed through the cavernous room. The woman who invited us, a mysterious acquaintance known only as Amelia, led the way with a sly grin on her face. "You guys are in for a night you won't forget," she declared, her voice barely audible above the thumping music. Pete and I exchanged glances, unsure of what to expect from this seemingly clandestine gathering. As we ventured deeper into the warehouse, the atmosphere grew more unnerving. Shadows danced on the walls like spectral specters, and the occasional gust of cold air whispered through the cracks in the dilapidated structure. Amelia, undeterred by the eerie ambience, urged us to follow her to the heart of the party. As we approached the center of the warehouse, the crowd thickened, and the pulsating beat became almost suffocating. It was then that a stranger, shrouded in darkness, sidled up to Pete and murmured something in his ear. I strained to catch a glimpse of the clandestine exchange, but couldn't make out the stranger's face. Pete's eyes widened and his demeanor shifted from casual curiosity to urgent concern. Without a word, he grabbed my arm and guided me away from the throng of partygoers. "We need to leave now," he said, his voice urgent but hushed. Confused and caught off guard, I followed Pete through the maze of revelry and out toward the entrance. He didn't offer any explanation, and the ominous feeling in the pit of my stomach intensified with every hurried step. Once outside, away from the pulsating bass and dim lights, Pete finally spoke. "Someone whispered in my ear," he confessed, glancing nervously back at the warehouse. "They told me we need to get out before midnight. They're going to shut and lock the doors." I scoffed, dismissing it as some twisted party game or a prank, but the unease in Pete's eyes silenced my skepticism. "Trust me," he pleaded, "we have to leave now." Reluctantly, we quickened our pace, the rhythmic thud of the music growing fainter behind us. The night air felt crisp, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere within the warehouse. As the clock on my phone ticked closer to midnight, a sense of foreboding settled over us. We reached the outskirts of the warehouse district just as the clock struck 12. In the distance, the echoing clang of metal against metal rang out, followed by an ominous creaking sound. I turned to see the massive doors of the warehouse slowly closing, sealing off whatever unsettling event awaited those who remained inside. My heart pounded as the reality of our escape sank in. Pete's fear was justified, and the mysterious warning had saved us from an unknown fate. We stood there, watching the warehouse doors shut with an eerie finality, feeling a chill in the air that had nothing to do with the cool night breeze. The next day, fueled by curiosity and a lingering sense of dread, we decided to return to the warehouse in the light of day. The once vibrant district now seemed desolate, and the warehouse stood silent and abandoned, as if it had never hosted a party the night before. We approached the sealed doors, searching for any sign of the revelry that had taken place within. But there was nothing. No discarded cups, no remnants of music, no lingering laughter. It was as if the warehouse had swallowed the secrets of the previous night whole. As we stood before the sealed doors, a disconcerting realization set in. Whatever had transpired within those walls, whatever inexplicable force drove Pete to rush us out, remained a mystery buried in the silent echoes of an abandoned warehouse. To this day, the memory of that night lingers, a chilling reminder that some secrets are better left undisturbed, hidden in the shadows of a warehouse that never hosted a party. The whispers that guided us to safety continue to haunt my thoughts, leaving me to wonder what malevolent force lurked within those forgotten walls.